Good evening. Welcome to the Nerdy Espresso, brought to you by Lunastar Studios, where creativity brews over a cup of coffee. Let's get brewing. Hi, I'm Siam Ahmed, and as always, I'll be your host. Now, before I jump into today's topic, I have one big question to address. Why am I even doing this? Why a podcast, and why now? Recently, I launched 2 videos on my YouTube. Yes, recently, about 1 or 2 months. And you might have noticed I have started a new series called Learn With Me. That series is all about me coding in front of you with minimal editing. The whole purpose of that series is to show you how to plan out completely new products, tackle different errors, and structure your workflow more efficiently. It's been a blast creating this content, but before diving deeper into that series, I felt it was important to carve out a space for a broader audience. Not everyone is a tech person who would enjoy watching coding tutorials or someone building a backend service that can't even be visually demonstrated. So, this channel is something I want to tailor to 2 main groups. One, the tech-savvy folks who can stare at a screen for hours, immersed in lines of code, and we who don't really touch grass. Second type of people, those who may not be into tech but curious about learning or gaining new perspectives in the field. Or maybe you like to listen to different topics, perhaps you are into tech but not a developer. Don't worry, I want to deliver something for everyone here. That's exactly why I started this podcast. This will be a space where I talk about everything from coding approaches and best practices to how to get started, and what you should and what you should not do, and essentially tech talks and trends in general. But I'm not just here to give advice, I'm here to share my journey and insights. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Why me? You might wonder what makes you the right person to give these insights. That's a fair question. Well, I can relate to most beginners because frankly, not long ago, I was in your shoes. When you're starting out, it's overwhelming. And while most industry professionals have gone through that phase, their beginner years often feel like a distant memory now. For me, though, it's still relevant because I'm constantly learning, adapting, and making mistakes, just like you. And no, I'm not an industry professional with 30 years of experience under my belt. The truth is, I'm not here to give you all the answers. Instead, I'm here to present an approach. Let you make your own choices and figure out what works best for you. The path you take is entirely in your hand. You may make mistakes, but eventually you'll get over them. So, let's start this journey by focusing on how someone who has never touched a single line of code should approach this field. Today, I want to talk about those baby steps that you should take. Let's fire up our journey with that, shall we? If you never coded before and you're thinking of getting into programming, whether because you want to become a software developer or it's just part of your job or academic life, it all comes down to the basics. The very first step is to start with the fundamentals. Now, there is a step 0 before that, choosing your programming language. You might think it's this is the most crucial decision of your career, but let me assure you, it's not. It's important, but it's not so critical that it will make or break your future in tech. For example, don't treat programming languages as these mystical, untouchable things. Treat them like tools in a toolbox. Tools that help you get the job done. That's what a programming language really is. They help you build a project or a product, but they don't make the decision for you. You have to make the decision. Should I use this language? Should I use that language? Why should I use it? What's the use of it? And something like that. For example, you might think Python is the holy grail of languages, but I'll tell you something. whatever you can build with Python, you can build with other languages as well, and vice versa. One of the most common mistakes I see is when beginners get to attach to one language that they refuse to explore others. Like, don't get me wrong, there are thousands of programming languages, each created for a specific use case. Imagine if you only had C and never experimented with languages like C++, Java, Python, Ruby, or JavaScript. There is a real reason why a language is built. There are thousands of languages. Like, I may be wrong, but maybe there is 1,000 languages, and they serve different purposes. If you have played with C, you'd know it doesn't support object-oriented programming, or OOP. That's one of the major reasons why C++ was invented. There's a reason why different languages exist. They are designed to be efficient for specific tasks. Maybe if you want to work with AI, machine learning, and other stuff, you should pick Python. I won't really recommend picking up C++ for doing machine learning. That's kind of like, yeah, maybe you can do it, maybe there's libraries and other stuff, but is it efficient? That's the question. Should I use this language? The core feature, a core responsibility of a programmer, a software engineer, is to go through the efficient approach. Not like something I love to do this in this language, so I will do everything in this language. Not like that. So now, I don't have any particular programming language. Like, I do not love any programming particularly. So, though I'm a bit biased toward Python because it's my first language, so I'm a bit biased towards it. Still, I explore other languages and don't stick to just Python. Here's the thing, you shouldn't either. I know roughly more or less 8 programming languages. So I explored, I loved, but I'm not really proficient like how I am for the Python. In Java, for example, I really know the basic syntax of Java, and I have never worked in Java. For whatever reason, I've never liked it. Anyways, now, if you are starting out, pick a language that feels comfortable for you. Want a challenge? Try C++ or Java. I hate Java. Anyways, once you master one, switching to another will be easier. So if you want to go for a challenge, if you like I don't know, maybe embedded system, and now if you don't know embedded system, just Google up, because it's like, you should know why I'm learning this language, but that's not really important. But you can just look at around, the curiosity is nice. So now, here's something important. Python and Swift are comparatively easier to learn than C++ or Java. Imagine writing 5 lines of code to print hello world on your console in C++ compared to just 1 line in Python. You just literally say print hello world and it will print that to your console or terminal, whatever you use. If you are some Linux user, great. But here's the thing, Java takes roughly 5 lines to print something in your console. So if you are really don't wanna mess around with these stuffs, pick Python. It's easy to learn, it's not that hard, the syntax is English so you can go in. So I would say that let's not get into the setup part as well. Python is extremely easy, and Java requires you Android Studio. No, not Android Studio, but JDK installation and other stuff. And if you talk about C++ or C, there's another shenanigans about the compiler, installing this and that. Though you can install the code blocks with the compiler with MinGW, but still, is it worth it? But you cannot use in Visual Studio Code or Sublime or other text editor if you don't have an inbuilt G++. That's maybe the compiler. I forgot about that. But if you're just starting, Python or JavaScript can be a great choice. JavaScript has a really good reputation in web. So if you wanna stick to one language, you should learn JavaScript because it handles the front end, it handles the back end quite good, and it has a good reputation in industry as well. What I would not recommend is going for Golang for beginners. It's a bit more advanced and tricky. While its syntax resembles Python, it's still different and better suited for someone who already knows other language. Maybe you can just learn JavaScript or Python first, then you can go for Golang. Remember, pick a language, learn the basics, and don't jump straight into flashy frameworks or advanced topics. If you don't know what a framework is, great. You'll learn about that later. For now, focus on the fundamental concepts. You should not really look and get influenced by the articles or videos about I'm working on this, this is the benefit and you should do it too. Yeah, there are benefits. Frameworks are your helpers, but you should not just jump around on every topic, every framework without knowing the whole basics, because if you know one thing, you will know the other thing eventually. Because as I am mostly working on backends, so I love to work on Django, but I never worked with Flask, but I worked with Fast API, which is fairly new. But when I want to build some quick APIs, I go for Fast API route because it's easier and no battery included, so it's pretty nice and slick function. But when I want to build something complex, maybe an e-commerce application, I would go for Django because it's safe, it's secure, and something like that. Now, as we are talking about programming languages and learning new stuff, one thing you really need is resources. So let's talk about resources. Specifically, free resources. You don't need to spend a ton of money to learn how to code. The internet is filled with high quality learning materials if you're willing to put the work. Yeah, you won't have a really structured syllabus if you go through the self-learning path. If you took the a formal course, then you have a structured syllabus. Yeah. Now, the choice is yours. You can go through the structured syllabus, you can spend some money, and you're good to go. But if you don't want to spend money, then YouTube is your best friend. YouTube, Google, and stuff like that. So my top recommendation is YouTube, obviously. No matter which language you choose, I highly recommend the free Codecamp channel. They have extensive tutorials on virtually every language. I remember the 36 hours of C++ course. It's a goldmine of information, but don't watch it all in one sitting. Don't just passively watch tutorials. To truly learn, you need to write the code yourself. Set up your environment and predict the next step the instructor will take. You can pause in certain places. You can just whatever you've learned before, try to write the code yourself, then play the video and see if you have done it right. If you don't, then what? If you don't, then just fix it. It's simple as that. That's how you'll be learning. Throwing up challenges, and you'll be eventually learning how to solve the challenges. So now, for your fast IDE, which is basically integrated development environment, or I should say in simple terms, where you would write your code, I'd recommend Visual Studio Code or Sublime. Visual Studio Code may be the perfect one. I use it all the time. Most of the people use it all the time. You got lots of features, lots of things to tinker with. So Visual Studio Code it is. But if you are learning C or C++, go with code blocks. It will make your life easier by including a pre-installed compiler. And that I talked about earlier about MinGW and stuff. You don't really have to set up things for the first time if you use code blocks. But if you're using Visual Studio Code to running any other programming languages like C or C++, you really have to have the compiler. It's true for Java as well. Now, also check out Replit if you don't own a PC or are using an iPad or tablet. So it's easier because you can spin up 3 free Replits, I guess. So that will be fine. You can just delete and make another one, or you can have multiple accounts, however you like it. While learning your first language, you might not understand everything in the first term, but that's fine. Watch it again, keep practicing. Consistency is key. And finally, If you have listened this far, I got something cool to share. If you enjoy reading, I've taken the time to turn this podcast script into articles. You will find the link to my website in the description, where you can read these insights in a more structured format. This is an article website I built specifically for this podcast script. If the link isn't there yet, it means I haven't finished it. I'm sorry. I'll upload it as soon as the podcast goes live. If you're more tech savvy, click the video on the right to watch a tutorial about how I built that website. If you want the raw uncut version, check out the playlist on the left. I'll meet you next Thursday at 8 o'clock with another exciting topic. Until then, see ya.